Welcome back to the Mighty Mum podcast. I'm Tegan, your host, and today I've got a very inspiring guest, Laura. Laura is a track machine specialist in the rail industry, and she's just fought in her first corporate boxing tournament. So tell us about that.
So basically I was lucky enough to connect with Soa years ago, and he's been running the Corporate Boxing Challenge for 3 years now. And this year it was the biggest that it has ever been. So unfortunately I didn't get down to Perth to do training with everybody. They run a 12-week program. But the funds that are raised go to the Blue Tree Project, and then I personally raised money for the Starlight Children's Foundation.
Oh, so amazing. Who is Soa?
So Soa is a world famous MMA fighter and also a mental health ambassador, and that was the capacity that I met him 6 years ago when I worked for another mining company down in Perth. And fortunate enough I stayed connected with him. I've brought him up to site a couple of times. And then going down to Perth for training, I've gone down and trained at his gym, and he suggested that I should put myself forward and compete and fight for the first time in the ring. So I thought, you know what, why not? I've always enjoyed boxing. I saw it as a challenge, something I could work towards. And I'm a big ambassador for mental health and have been working in the industry with some high school kids on a project to bring a blue tree to site. So it all kind of fell into place, and here we are.
Stars aligned. I was going to ask what inspired you, but I guess those were your inspiration. Any other inspirations?
Yeah. I guess my kids are the main thing. I just want to show them that mum basically can do anything and the world is your oyster. And I think that's been the most humbling thing about the whole experience, was meeting some really impressive people that are top of their chosen sports and just how normal they are, essentially, which basically just shows kids that, like, if you're willing to put the effort in, if you're willing to do the training and make sacrifices, you can be whatever you want to be, which I think is a really amazing message to get out to kids these days.
I love it. And the lead up to the boxing fight, what was the training regime like?
So if I was down in Perth, it would have been a 12-week training every weekend, boxing with everybody. But obviously being in the Pilbara, it's a little bit different. So when I could, I got down to Perth and trained with them. But I was fortunate enough to connect with some local boxers. I had a couple of different blokes that I would train with. We'd warm up playing basketball. And they were both on different rosters, so it was what made it work. I would get up at 3:30 in the morning and work out in my own gym in the garage to maintain consistency, and then I'd do interval work of a weekend generally, so work it around the kids' work, life, just had to do whatever you had to do to get it done, essentially.
Yeah. And what's it like getting punched in the face?
To be honest, I'd rather be punched in the face than punching somebody in the face. It's not a natural thing that I like to do. But I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things you kind of, that's what you signed up for, so you kind of got to expect it. And look, it's not the best feeling, I'm not going to lie, but it is what it is, and that's what it's all about. And I guess my intent was to avoid as many as possible. I did end up with a black eye on Thursday, so it wasn't actually from the Saturday session, but I did get a black eye when I was training prior to it, but at least, like, I looked the part.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And what about your mindset, leading up to the event? How did you kind of control your nerves and, like, stay out of your head, essentially?
I think it was one of those things that I was ready, in the fact that I'd done the training, people had put the time into me, so I was ready to go. Probably the day beforehand was what I feared the most, which was standing on scales and having everybody know my weight, because it is actually classified as a proper fight. But yeah, standing out there and getting into the ring and fighting in front of 600 people, I just didn't want to trip getting into the ring mainly. So yeah, when the bell went and we started, I was good.
Yeah. And so the walkout, you know, you're hyped up. What was your song?
Not Afraid by Eminem.
Oh, I
Very
love
old school.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're walking out, you're getting to the ring, and then, you know, what was the feeling getting into the ring and then fighting? Do you remember it? Like, a few people say they black out, but do you remember the whole thing?
I think so. It gave me a bit of a pep talk, poured some water over me, and then it was ready to go. And like, I was lucky enough to do a bit of sparring with Janine prior to the fight. And we'd had some chats and stuff like that prior to getting in the ring together. So I felt super comfortable, and like we'd worked out how we were going to start it essentially. And then it was kind of like, well, 2 minutes of giving it a crack.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was like I say, it was a really humbling experience, and I met some really great people, and I think I'd love to do something more with it and get community involved in some way, and the youth, just through the people that I meet and just my experience, that I think it would be really valuable for community to give back, kind of thing. So we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah. And how about yourself post this fight? You know, you've gone out, you've done this amazing thing. How are you feeling about yourself and what's next?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I've really enjoyed it. I enjoy being fit. I enjoy the training. It's really strange to think that I don't have boxing anymore booked in, but I would like to continue doing it. So who knows what happens? But like I say, I think I've connected with some really great people up here in Port Hedland, and also within, I guess, the industry itself. So being able to pull on maybe resources and like work towards a mental health initiative within the community would be great, with the youth and the demographics up here, that it could really support community and have somewhere for kids to go. Like I say, I was fortunate enough to go and train at Big Rig's gym down in Perth, and just talking to him about the stories of like kids that have come through and I guess empowered in the actual learning how to box and being successful, that I think it would be something that would really serve community up here. So we'll see what happens.
So good. Now let's go to your work.
Yes.
So as I mentioned, you are a track machine specialist. What does that mean?
So basically I work on projects, improvement projects for Frontline. So I've been fortunate to come into the industry from originally education, then oil and gas, and now in mining and rail. And I started off running traineeship programs for development. So I kind of was establishing connections and networking through that, and developing people. And it kind of meant that improvement was where my niche was within the industry, and leveraging the relationships that I've built. So I work with Frontline essentially to improve everyday things, and also like larger scale projects as well, contractor management side of things. It's really whatever my superintendent puts in front of me that I kind of try and turn my hand to, which is great. And I'm very thankful for that opportunity. That's what's, I guess, developed my skills, to be able to have the ability to be flexible.
Yeah. One project you told me about was the women down track didn't have toilets, and you guys implemented something. What was that?
Yeah, it was a really simple one, but women down track, we can't go like guys do. So yeah, it was pretty simple. It was just something that you can buy online, and it's a pop-up tent, and then you've got privacy. So a simple solution to a common problem, essentially.
You should sell them.
That's what.
Niche it.
Well, that's what we you never know. Let's go into business. Some pretty designs would be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's really actually one of the supervisors called me Laura Gets, because I just try and get it done, which is really
so
sweet.
good.
So it's nice to have the support of my supervisors and the support of my superintendent, and they kind of give me a problem and I try and get a solution essentially.
That's awesome. Love your mindset. So you mentioned you came from education. what was your background? What did you study? And then what was transferable to the mining industry?
So I started off student centre working in student centre, faculty of business, faculty education, and through my time at the university, I actually completed my MBA.
Age 24?
Yeah. So I
Crazy.
graduated with that at 24.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Darwin for a change in life. And I originally moved up into education, and then I got into the oil and gas industry. And whilst working there, I started off just basically in admin. Then I went into commissioning, and then I became supervisor and demobbed the site. And while I was there, I also completed a graduate certificate in risk management and a graduate certificate in marketing, because I really enjoy education and just learning. And to be honest, I think with the basis of education, I have that's how I've ended up doing what I'm doing. And yeah, I moved to Perth. I worked at Telfar. I went FIFO there. I was in the warehouse. I have a forklift license. So that was fun. But I think too, the thing that I can take away from industry wise is like the people have been amazing. And I think people become your family. And my oil and gas experience, I have lifetime friends from that, which I'm so thankful for. And they're scattered across the world because it was a project that was based around that. So it's quite incredible. But yeah, coming to work in the mining industry up here in rail, I was fortunate enough to start the Rail Network Maintenance Traineeship Program, and that I think was utilising my educational background and just going grassroots and kind of my experience coming onto site and what was maybe missing to make it more beneficial. And that program's now been running for 4 years successfully, getting diverse candidates into the industry as well. And like I say, it's basically if you have a great work ethic and attitude, we can teach you all the skills to be successful. So it was finding their niche as well throughout the industry. And yeah, it's kind of been something that I've just been passionate about and always find myself in that space, also working with a bit of community and school-based trainees and different projects and stuff. So I think it comes from being a doer.
Yeah, getting shit done.
You just got to get it done.
I love it. And you mentioned that you're doing a project with some high school students, which is in support of Blue Tree Foundation. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it was actually my previous role that I started this up, and originally I had the initiative but was told no by a couple of people and I didn't accept that no. So I went to a couple of different people and I established that we could basically make it a project for the high school kids and they can get their qualifications who were coming on site. And so now we have an 8-foot blue tree that's going to be coming on site really soon. And funny enough, it's a blue tree, and obviously I just fought for blue tree. So it wasn't necessarily the conversations. This program's only been running for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
The blue tree's been built for about 12 months. So it's funny how life works out, but yeah, it's all come together.
Oh, it's so good. It's crazy that it's all kind of coming together. Yeah. Before we wrap up today, Laura, what would your one piece of advice be for anybody wanting to get into the rail industry?
Take any opportunity that comes your way. And I would say you just like networking and like be tenacious and apply yourself. So if somebody says no, maybe don't take it. Yeah, I think it shows a lot of resilience if you can push through and find alternative solutions to a problem. And yeah, the rail industry, I love industry, whether oil and gas or rail or whatnot. It is something that I guess you're either made for or not as well. And I know like FIFO is hard for some people, residential is what it is. But yeah, it has a lot of opportunity and you just don't know what facet you might start in and what you'll end up in. I can assure you when I started in oil and gas in admin, I didn't think I'd be a specialist in rail. And like now I'm looking at doing my engineering in rail.
Wow.
Yeah, in the next 12 months. So yeah, didn't think that was on the cards, but you just don't know what the future holds. So I think it's just take the opportunity that's presented to itself.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us
Thank you.
today. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and share with a friend. Thank you so much.